Hello and welcome to Andrew a la carte, the show where I teach you how to cook. Today we're making the best scallion pancakes. These are so good, they're flaky, crispy, chewy, just everything that you want in a food. Let's get started. Combine flour and water in a large bowl and add salt. I then like to mix all of my ingredients with a spoon and then switch over to my hands. Begin stirring and combining the ingredients until you have formed a shaggy dough, and then start to knead. The dough shouldn't be sticking to your hands, but it should be a little bit tacky. I realized that my dough was a little dry, so I added a tablespoon of water and began to knead this in. It's a pain to knead water into a formed dough, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. After I get all of the water in, I roll it out onto a floured work surface and begin kneading until I get a relatively smooth dough. This will take 3 to 5 minutes. I always knead my dough by folding with one hand and then pushing on that fold with the other. I may change the method around a little bit, but no matter what, it's always a form of pushing and folding. Once I'm done kneading, I cover it in plastic wrap and let it sit around for about 10 to 20 minutes as we prepare some other things. We let the dough rest because this relaxes the gluten and it will make the dough easier to roll out. Anyway, we now need to cut some scallions. I like to have a lot of them, so here we are. I used only the green part for this, but you should save the whites as this can be used for other foods. We then head over to the stove and grab a small saucepan and add your oil. Turn it to medium heat and then your flour. You want to now mix these around. I use a whisk to remove all of the clumps, but you can just use a fork, a spoon, whatever you got. Then I wait for it to begin bubbling and let it cook for a minute or two while swirling the pan. After cooking, I turn off the heat and add a bit of sesame oil to the mix. Sesame oil, by the way, just enhances the flavor of really any Asian dish so much. It's also good in salad dressings and so much more, so just always keep sesame oil around. Back to the dough. We can unwrap it and just check out how stretchy it has become. This is the result of letting it rest. So what I like to do now is begin rolling it out into a nice log. I put pressure on the middle and slowly move my hands out to make sure my dough is even. I then do some small presses with a rolling pin to get a flat surface to roll on the rope of dough, and I start to widen it. The thinner you can get the dough, the better. You want about 1/8 of an inch thick if possible. I made the mistake of rolling this way too long, but I'm making this mistake so that you don't have to. Just create a shorter log of dough and roll it wider and it will work perfectly. I then take the roux and mix it a little bit as most of the flour has settled on the bottom. Then brush it on top of the sheet of dough. It's important to make sure this covers the whole thing, as this is what allows for the pancakes to have those great layers. I then spread out all of my scallions. You want to use every last bit, don't skimp on this. Once that's done, I fold the top over and start rolling the sheet out. You want to try to take as much air out as possible, as having too much can create problems down the line. Once you have almost rolled the whole thing, lift up the bottom lip and pinch it on top. You can also put back any scallion that has fallen out during this step. Now I split the roll into two and coil the pieces. I make sure that I start rolling with the side that I cut because then no scallion will be falling out of the open cut. The last step to making the dough is finally adding some flour and rolling the coil out into a nice thin pancake, about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch thick. I then bring it over to the stove and preheat a cast iron skillet at medium-high heat with some oil. We don't need a lot here, it isn't like we're deep frying or anything, but it's important to have a good little bit. Once the pan is nice and hot, drop in the pancake and cook on each side for 2 to 4 minutes. While this was cooking, I made a little dipping sauce to eat the scallion pancakes with. Super simple, it's just 1 part soy sauce, 1 part rice vinegar, and a little bit of sesame oil. I put a little bit too much, but it's gonna still be alright. Another thing that you can also add is a little bit of sriracha if you feel like it, but for me, I personally like it without. The scallion pancake is now ready on that side, so all we have to do is flip it over, wait about 2 minutes, take it out, and enjoy.